So during today's press conference, President Trump answered the meddling question by turning to the FBI and the DNC, as the general was just referring to. Watch this.
That are wondering why the FBI never took the server. Haven't they taken the server? Why was the FBI told to leave the office of the Democratic National Committee? Where is the server? I want to know, where is the server and what is the server saying? With that being said, all I can do is ask the question. My people came to me, Dan Coates came to me, and some others. They said they think it's Russia. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this. I don't see any reason why it would be.
Here now, California Democrat Eric Swalwell, member of the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman, good to have you here tonight.
Good evening, Mark.
It was an interesting turn when he was asked about that. He went to the issue of the servers, questioning the FBI's investigation and why and how they would have been able to reach any conclusions when they never had those servers in hand.
Well, Martha, first, there may have been an American flag on that stage. I did not see an American president. I saw two defenders of Russia. And for the president to insult the FBI, and he knows that server was imaged. In our investigation, we found that was sufficient. The FBI does this all the time when cyber attacks occur. They don't just take a server away from a business, a company, an organization, if imaging will provide the same information. And so it was just disgusting to see him use this whataboutism rather than confronting the person responsible for ordering that attack.
You know, in terms of, and we're going to play a soundbite in just a moment as soon as we have it turned around, Chris Wallace was talking to Vladimir Putin, and he basically called him on the carpet for his involvement and meddling in our elections. And one of the things that he said that was very interesting was basically, well, you know, it wasn't a state operation. This was not a Russian state operation. But then he almost, you know, sort of admitted involvement in it because he said that, you know, these emails, you know, we didn't make them up, that they were hacked, and they showed a real bunch of emails and communication. They weren't made up. Watch this.
Was it some rigging of facts? Was it some forgery of facts? That's the important thing that I'm trying to, the important point that I'm trying to make. Was this any false information planted? No, it wasn't. The information that I am aware of, there's nothing false about it. Every single grain of it is true.
He's saying, you know, whatever was divulged between Democrat emails, they were all things they actually wrote anyway. What do you make of all that?
Well, first, I have a lot of respect for Chris Wallace. That shows the value of a free press. They are not the enemy of the American people. But two, those emails were private emails, not intended for the public. And by putting them out there and weaponizing them, they turned us against each other. This could happen to the Republicans and Democrats. I hope, if it ever does, that we stand with them united and say, we're not going to tolerate this. Whichever country does it, whichever party is affected by it, that we will use unity as an antidote if this was to ever happen again. And let me just add, Martha, Democrats have offered to the Republican Congressional Campaign Committee a use truce, saying that if emails are hacked this election, we won't use it against you if you don't use it against us. And they won't take us up on that. And I don't know why, and I wish they would.
Yeah, I mean, it would be remarkable to see that play out. But given how dirty we know these campaigns get, it's almost impossible to believe that that would actually be a deal that could be reached. But we have heard a lot about the fact that there is already very active campaigns to get involved in the 2018 election. But I think one of the things that perhaps bothers the president so much, and I think, you know, not to psychoanalyze, but one of the reasons that perhaps he appears to hate to go there is because he doesn't want to give up any ground in terms of how he won the election. But at the same time, you can say there was no collusion and it didn't impact the outcome, but we do need to know what they're doing and what any other government out there is doing, because they're not alone, the Russians, in terms of getting in the way of our elections, and we simply won't stand for it.
That's right. You can separate collusion from this interference campaign and say we're never going to tolerate an adversary doing this. Martha, just weeks after the November election, I wrote legislation bipartisan legislation to have an independent commission, because I feared this was too charged for Congress, that we would dig in, and if Republicans heard Russia, they would just assume that we were trying to delegitimize the presidency. And so I wanted, just like we did after September 11, to have a commission of elders and statesmen equally appointed by the House and the Senate, Republicans and Democrats, so that they could give the American people the awareness they need and recommend the reforms that Congress must pass. We can still do that. The September 11th Commission was not created on September 12th. It was over a year later, but I think that's the best way we could address this.
So, in terms of Vladimir Putin's offer that he would open up, what, I don't know, but he said, come on over here and you can do your investigation of the people who you indicted. And we would also like to have the reciprocal ability to do the same. The president seemed to think that was, a pretty big development out of their discussion. What did you make of it?
Well, that's a very naive way to look at it. I don't think any victim of a burglary would invite the burglar over to create a new home security system, and that's exactly what Vladimir Putin's trying to do.
Eric Swalwell, thank you very much, Congressman.
Yeah,
thanks for being here
my
tonight.
pleasure.